Shalom, shalom. Welcome again to Shar Stories. Today I'm going to tell the tale of trying to have children. All right. Floyd and I were married when we were both 41 in 1989. Neither of us had any children. I had never been pregnant. And Father's Day, June of 1990, it's about 6 months after we got married because we got married in December of 89. We decided to start a family, actually to enlarge our family because husband and wife are the foundational family. After many months of trying with no results, we decided to go for professional medical consultation. We already had a layperson medical advice from my mother, which was, your egg's too old. Okay. So the fertility doctor examined both of us, ran tests, and determined that I had a blocked fallopian tube and that Floyd's, and I'm quoting from him, little men were mostly sunning on the beach instead of swimming in the ocean. Okay, I had flashbacks of my mama's terminology. I'm dealing with that. But anyway, so I had my tube blown out. And these were the terms that professionals were using, okay? It was so painful. I asked a nurse, I said, is childbirth worse than this? When she said, oh, yeah, I was nearly ready to give up to pursue children. All right. After all the tests, the doctors told us that I could get pregnant without any medical interventions. And he suggested I take my temperature when ovulation occurred in order to maximize our effort. Sure enough, several months later, I became pregnant. Before I became aware of this blessed news, I had scheduled a trip from Detroit to San Jose to see my sister. We had planned to go to San Francisco shopping. Now, with this amazing news, I really wanted to spend some time with my sister and celebrate. I spent a day at her house and we took a train to San Francisco. My sister and I have very different outlooks of life. And if you've heard any of my stories, you're probably saying, yeah, I know you do. Unless Sharon's outlook runs in the family. Okay. For instance, when we got settled on the 45-minute train trip to San Francisco, I suggested we pray, and she was in agreement. I started off, Dear Heavenly Father, thank you that I safely arrived in California to visit my sister. Please give us a safe trip to and from San Francisco. Help us to have a great time. Help us to meet some nice people. Hold it, hold it. Right in my Bible. She said, hold it. We aren't meeting anyone. That's okay, okay. So you get the picture of the difference. So we had a grand time walking up and down the streets, walking the wharf, buying maternity clothes, and just having a good sisterly time. However, after the wonderful trip, I returned home and miscarried at 6 weeks. My uncle said she had no business going to San Francisco. She walked that baby out. Well, it was back to square one. We started with the temperature taking all over again, and I'm gonna tell you, trying to conceive is emotionally draining business. For half the month, you're in high expectation that this is the month. And for the other half of the month, you're depressed because it turned out not to be the month. The highs and lows were really nerve wracking. And in May of 1992, my mom and I went to visit relatives in Dollarhide, Alabama. It was so named because the early settlers, my maternal family, sold animal hides for $1. Dollarhide. Mom and I stayed with Uncle Russell and Aunt Mary. Now, a lot of people say Aunt Mary, but Southern we Aunt Mary, okay? And it was my grandfather's sister. Upon arrival, I was questioned. Where you live now? What kind of work you do? You married? How many children do you have? What? No children? Girl, I'm gonna take you to see what happened to old folks that don't have no children. Okay, Aunt Mary hustled the four of us, Uncle Russell, my mama, and her, into his car, and we headed, as she said, down in the country. Now I'm already thinking I'm in the country, so I had no idea what down in the country means. We went down some dirt roads and stopped in front of a dilapidated house that was leaning at least 6 degrees to the side. Now, for non-mathematicians, it was worse than the Leaning Tower of Pisa, okay? It was nearly covered with brush, vines, and kudzu, I think that's the pronunciation of it. I sighed heavily at the thought of going into that house, but I had kinfolk in there, and my curiosity was overwhelming. Besides that, Aunt Mary was on a mission, and she would have pulled me in there at my least hesitation. Now, Aunt Mary at this time was like, oh, she was up in her 80s, all right, but she was getting around good. Inside was Cyril, that was short for Silence. He was a former preacher, and his wife, Fanny Bell. They both were 90 something. And Fanny Bell, she had Alzheimer's, and so she was sitting in the kitchen, and somebody was doing her hair. But Cyril was dressed in an insulated hunting outfit, okay? It went from his neck to his ankles, and he had on long johns underneath. And he was sitting in front of a kerosene heater that was on full blast. And he was talking to his 70 something year old brother. And I was about to pass out because it was so hot in there because the temperature outside was 95. All right. So when we left, Aunt Mary started in on me. That's what happens if you don't have no children to take care of you. Cyril's brother's the one that comes to make sure they have food, and he's old himself. You better have some kids or you end up the same way. I was too stunned and respectful of Aunt Mary to start explaining the reasons why I didn't have any children. I just agreed and said I'd better get some children soon. Okay. Okay. Now when I returned to Detroit, to Floyd, okay, I remember sitting on his knee. Okay, yeah, I was small enough then where I could sit on his knee. And I was crying and bawling about how we were going to end up like Rev Side and Fannie Bell. Floyd, the poor man, he couldn't do any more than he was already doing, you know. I know he was probably making a mental note. Last time she's going to visit them crazy relatives. Okay. Well, miracle of miracles. I got pregnant the next month. Okay. And after ten weeks of mental, just, trying to get through this, and the doctor ordered me on bed rest, and I miscarried at 10 weeks. And that was the last time I got pregnant. About a year or so later, my mom and I went to visit some elderly friends there in Detroit. And I hadn't seen them for years, and we were all sitting around the kitchen nook. And Ed started with the question, you married? Who did you marry? How many children you have? No children. What's the matter? You can't picture, you can't catch. I laughed, and in a flash I answered. He pitched, I caught it, but I couldn't hold on to it. We all laughed. Looking back on the highs and lows of our journey trying to have children, I'm so grateful to have had the experience of pregnancy. I wanted so much to feel the unique blessing and have the unique blessing of a woman to carry life inside of me. Some years later, Floyd and I adopted two children. We started trying to get pregnant in 1990, and we had our first child come into our home in 98. Winston was placed in our home at 5.5 months, and we brought Zoe home from the hospital at 10 days old. I love my children, and our family is whole. My family was whole. And I believe that those 8 years of that testing and tribulation, it helped Floyd and I to grow closer and helped me to mature. I appreciate the struggles of others now, and I'm able to minister to them. I also developed a desire so deep for my children that I think of my children as our gift from Jehovah to be cherished and taught his ways. Thank you for listening. Please remember to like and share and subscribe if you haven't already. Shalom.